Hello grade 4s, welcome to environmental lesson, and today we are going to learn something about culture and social organization. You must have heard the word culture. I think it is not going to be the first time you are hearing about this, but for me to begin explaining the lesson, I would like to ask you this question. Do you know what culture is? Do you know of different communities that we have in Kenya? Have you ever been in a museum? Have you ever been told by your father about different communities? I know you must have heard at one point been explained about some of those things I've asked you. Very well. Now, to begin with, I want us to explain and describe or even define what the word culture is. And I will explain it by writing it here. Now, culture is the people's way of life. Culture is the people's way of life. I'm not saying a person, but I'm saying people's way of life. And just as the definition explains, different communities that lived or that lives in Kenya have or had different practices that they used to do. For example, we have some communities in Kenya that still practices traditional method of dressing. Others also still takes traditional foods. Others also, they practice what we call circumcision and so many other things. So that explains what culture is. It's all about doing the things the traditional way and how these things affect the communities even nowadays. Now class, let us see the different aspects of culture practiced by different communities in Kenya. And before I highlight those ones, class, let me ask you this question. Have you ever seen people wearing clothes, for example, animal skins or hides and skins? Yes, class? Good. Next question. Have you ever also seen those communities that do not have their 6 lower teeth? Good. The last question. Have you ever seen or have you ever heard of those communities that still practices circumcision? Cool and good, class. Those questions will lead us to the aspects of culture that we want to see in different communities as practiced traditionally and even nowadays. So number 1, let us look at aspects of culture. Aspects of culture. Number 1, we talk of dressing. Different communities dressed differently. There were those communities, or many people traditionally did not have clothes. Just to say that clothes were not there traditionally. People used to put on hides and skins. Just to explain, if you will have maybe going to meet someone in front of you, if you had maybe an animal skin, you'll put it here. Then when the person passes you, you'll return it at your back. So that explains what traditional dressing was all about. There were no clothes whatsoever. People used hides and skins, some people used leaves, others used some feathers just to cover themselves. There were no clothes. Number 2, people practiced what we call, they had different foods, more so traditional ones, like sweet potatoes. Some people took cassava, some of them ate milk, drank milk, some of them also meat and even blood. Those ones were some of the traditional foods. Not to forget about millet, barley, sweet potatoes, I've said that. So it is important to note that there were also different kinds of food that were eaten by different communities. Number 3, we talk of sports. There were so many types of sports. For example, we call it tug war. People practiced that. There were also this thing called wrestling, was in terms of sports. People also practiced that. There were also chasing one another. Those ones were different types of sports that were practiced with different communities in traditional way. There are also housing, like manyatas. You know that. Some people lived in them. For example, the Maasais, they lived in manyatas. Some of them also lived in caves and so many other things. So that explains what different aspects of culture were in different communities. For example, a tribe like the Luos, they had to remove 6 lower teeth. That means that was a mode of culture amongst the people in that community. That explains how people behaved culturally in different ways and in this entire country. So class, culture is a people's way of life. So it is important for you to note that even the pictures that I shall be showing you at the end of this lesson, you will be able to see those very type of clothing, the sports, the food types that were there in the traditional African society, and so many other things, class. At the end of this class, I know you've now understood the social organization and even culture as was in the past and practiced by different communities that lives or that still lives in Kenya. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.